Cavecast, the uncensored show for nerds of all kinds.
But we do have some different things that are leading us down some new roads here pretty soon, as far as keeping some schedules and doing some different uploading. You guys will notice that this video actually dropped on Sunday. It didn't drop on Friday. It dropped at, I think what we have now is 5 p.m. And it's a part of delegating our efforts and our abilities of what we do and what we like when we record every week, because we've pounded out a lot of Riker Road. It's been a very long uploading process of 2 years, and not missing a day except for when I was sick or like when different like power outages happened or different things like that. So to know that we get to make 7 videos a week now, but it is across all 4 channels. That has been such a huge relief. And if you guys have not seen the scheduling video, I'll make sure I link it in the description. That way you guys can see it. But we've got some good stuff ahead of us, man. Like it's liberating and very scary in some ways, but it's also very relaxing in the majority of it. That's kind of how I feel,
Agreed. And I'm not going to lie now. I mean, things could change and, algorithms and numbers and things just like anything else, they always constantly change. But, knock on wood, we have kind of taken a step back from Riker Road over the last, almost week.
Yeah, it's felt a lot longer, but yeah.
Well, as far as instead of the 7 days a week and stuff, as far as a drop, and then, even just with my only still 1 day for the time being a 4-hour coffee time instead of the regular 2 and stuff like that. But what I'm getting at is that the numbers didn't really change a whole lot, like on anything as far as what we get to see in YouTube Studio and stuff. Right. So that's actually been nice, and the joke was we were working too hard, Yeah. But I think the thing is that that actually is kind of it. We were getting the same almost outcome by putting out 7 days a week worth of content compared to now 3.
Yeah, I honestly, looking back, I don't know how we did it.
Well, I do, because it was just, we were just pounding away, man. But I think that once we finally kind of took a step back and thought and went, okay, well, if it's going to be a certain way and we can kind of cut down instead of maybe it hurting the channel with, some algorithms and stuff, maybe just not putting a video out, still having the coffee time, see what happens.
Yeah, that was kind of our first dabble, I would say, yeah.
And it really kind of just, like I said, stayed the same. And I'm sitting there going, this is interesting, because maybe we were just putting too much effort into this, thinking, well, of course it's going to work.
Yeah, it is kind of hard. Like, I mean, I don't want to.
It is. It's hard.
It's hard to. It is a hard process, to do, and then also, what I would say is that, unless if this is what you were saying, was that it's kind of hard to fail. But in the same hand is that there's a reason why we ended up stepping away and doing our thing, was that it was it's not benefiting.
Yeah.
It's kind of a surefire way that it's you'll get quote unquote views every day, but you're still just going to be kicking above the water.
Right.
So it's if you're going to be kicking above the water anyway, then be comfortable.
Sure.
Do what you know for a fact that you can do. Because I know we've pushed limits before when we recorded and we've done different things, but I think there was also a good majority of the time that it was just what we did.
It was.
So, yeah.
It was. And I think just kind of going back to that whole thing of being able to cut back, because we do know that we can keep Riker Road stable, and it be to where people still get what they want, and the amount of time compared to we're not just giving you a bulk of them throughout the beginning of the week and then it just stops. They're scattered, so you kind of get days in between. But in the other days in between, yes, we get to focus on the other drops, which is this channel, the Detour, the campfire stories. So now, instead of having to get 7 days worth of reaction channels or reaction videos done, we can do half the time of the stuff and be able to take the other time plus some and work on the other channels.
Yeah.
They're going to get so much more attention. And I think hopefully the outcome is going to be better in the fact of the product that we can give people.
I hope so too, man.
Because that's my biggest thing is that, over time of being a creator, it's that, the look, the sound, everything for me is key. I have the ability and I know what it is. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So now it's just making sure that I get out there what the people want to see from us. And that's, what we're trying to work on now, because it's like, we've got a lot of stuff kind of going on, but I argue it's a lot of things that like people are going to want to see. It's just narrowing down the couple of things instead of the 10. So that's kind of the grind right now, I think.
Yeah. I think that,
sorry, I hope that made sense.
Well, no, it does. What I think is interesting is that the shift to the second channel, which I mean, we did an entire episode about it on the Cavecast because like it was like a new thing and it was on our minds, and that's usually like where we try to steer our conversations, where it's like, no, like let's think of presently, like even before
we have topics sometimes now,
right?
But, yeah.
But I mean, even before this, like we had a topic or we had a thing that I wanted to talk about, and I was like, nah, man, just for this and this reason, didn't feel right. I think this is more important. This is where our brains are at. It's not work to talk about or try to fish things out. It's to allow it to flow naturally, and that was an episode that we were kind of on the edge of just like, all right, well, there's this new horizon of having a second channel on top of what we do. And the weird thing is, guys, is that like with how we recorded stuff for just Riker Road when we were doing, the gaming videos, or we would put up a Shut Up and Eat It, or we would do different stuff. It was kind of like, all right, well, that's just the next upload on Riker. And then I know for me, it was kind of like, well, we'll just record the same. And it was like, well, no, we got to cover Riker as well. And it was so difficult to get momentum running on the Detour. It was something that like when I would think about it, it would just scare me and frustrate me, because I'm like, I feel like I'm failing. I feel like that, I should have, been doing more. I could have been thinking about something, or like,
and it was the same. It was the same thing. Like you said, it's literally just uploading it to a different channel name. Right. Why it made a difference, I don't know. But the Detour has it's severely been lacking for like 4 months, 3 months. Mm-hmm. And it's because like, we were so ready for it. And we are like, it's not that it's too much or like overkill. Like it's like I said, literally the same amount of time that we were spending on things. Like we're actually still doing the same thing. Yeah. We are literally doing the same thing. I would argue that we are recording properly now. Yeah. And I think that's the thing, is that we're now trying to have it in our quote schedule, instead of being like, all right, well, I guess here, like at the end of the month, we'll try and get a Shut Up and Eat It in and do this and like make sure they'll have us over there. Or like, all right, well, I think I can get these cameras to set up over here for the, the What'd You Say's, or like, it doesn't matter. Like now it's in a schedule, and now it's like, oh fuck, I didn't get that done by Thursday. Right. Yeah. And now it's like a thing. So like, I think it's almost like, did you get the project done for school? Dude. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, no shit, I didn't. Oh my God, I'm going to be in trouble.
We're doing the exact same shit we were doing when we were 12. It's just that now it's just our creative efforts. It's like,
I was talking on the live this morning, and like, this is going to sound like a joke and funny, and like it is, haha. But it's also the truth. I'm my own boss. That's scary. Mm-hmm. But the fact that, the channels, social medias, emails, messages, plus my life, and then everything, then I realized, oh my God, man, I haven't stayed very consistent on Patreon, even with the whole movie things, but even just like posting something. Yeah. People are there to get like exclusive things, or even just like maybe the before, what is that, like story or something like that. Mm-hmm. But what I'm getting at is that like I sat there, I'm like, dude, I have done a lot of good stuff, but I have slacked on so many things over here that if I were at a real job, I would be wrote up or fired by now. Right. Yeah. Like, it sounds funny, like, oh, haha, you didn't check your emails, and haha, on Patreon. No, but like, that's part of my job. Right. That's part of the thing. That's part of the stuff. Like, you have to, because it's like, I like, it like hit me. I'm like, fuck, dude. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not in a schedule, and I'm not in a routine like that anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like overwhelming sometimes. But at the same time, I go, dude, it's the same thing you've been doing. Mm-hmm. Why is this now different? Yeah. I don't understand this, man. I think it's weird that we're both in that mindset where like it just shifted like the same day for the both of us. Yeah. And I don't know how, like, was the moon's gravity pulling the whatever the horoscope bullshit is. But like, no, honestly, like, it was weird that we just have both been in this like same mindset with it. And I don't know why.
Well, I think that it comes down to that, we understand what's ahead of us. We know the effort it takes to do the things that we do. I mean, it's because like when we were scheduling out and really trying to think about, okay, like, Riker does need multiple videos a week because that is the, like, what the algorithm has gotten used to is that there's at least going to be some pings. Like, there's going to be multiple throughout the week of, oh, there's something new.
Right.
So when we were kind of like, all right, well, Riker will get the most because that makes sense.
Right.
So what can feasibly be done with the rest of it if we did less uploads? Like where could we delegate that to? And it, for me, like, writing on the whiteboard, having kitchen talk and like figuring stuff out, like, that's like when you're cooking with grease, like, that's the best part of the creative process. Like, when you're in complete synergy with the person that you're, making stuff with. And it's like, nah, man, like, none of us are in this for, selfish reasons. We're here to make this better. Like,
correct.
What can we do?
Correct.
And honestly, it was a kick in the ass for me because especially like looking at, making sure that it's like the fact that there needs to be a campfire video every week and just knowing that it's like, well, all right, well, how do I make that happen? It's like, can I do the really big production stuff that I've been doing where it's like, oh, like, the setting changes and so does the music and so does the sound effects. I mean, like all that, different stuff. And I kind of I pulled the reins this week where I was like, no, man, have your music, have your narration. This story doesn't dictate a lot of sound effects. This is more about like, just listen to what's going to happen next, and it was kind of finding a way to simplify it in a way to be able to make sure that it was like, no, it can be done. That way I can work on other projects that, and like other things that'll be more quality or bigger quality in the future. Like that's kind of how like I was viewing it. Now you could also say that it's like, well, you're making it easier on yourself. And it's like, yeah, we have a schedule to keep. So whatever needs to be done will be done. But I think I'm happy that I'm in the situation that I'm able to do it, and that it can be consistent, because getting these other things out there and doing that, especially like the Detour, that's essentially where we're going to find our next phase of our YouTube career, if it goes the way that we want it to,
right.
That's the part that I'm really excited about is to see the growth and to see what happens, then there's also the other side of it is that we are starting over. So it is very daunting. So it's kind of like I yearn for it where it's like we did it on one channel. We can do this on others,
Agreed. And I think that that's where I can't remember if it was even on the podcast the last week, but it's the fact of, you don't just automatically get all of your followers to another channel, come over and stuff. And like, we understand that. So like you were saying, the grind. And I think that is the cool thing on watching the other channels grow, because like you said, we kind of, not that we know what we're doing, but like, we know we can do this. So it's just kind of figuring out, like I was saying earlier, like, what is it that they're going to want to see on this channel here, on this channel here, and this channel here, right?
Right.
And I think that there is something inspiring about the fact of, I've succeeded over here on this one. Now let's see what, in a sense, like how it can work over here. What's the difference? What's the different grind? What's the different, outcome? Like all of these things, because I was saying, I've said in the last couple coffee times as well too, like even with myself, but it's like that whole mentality of like, I just like watching people succeed.
Yeah.
So with the campfire, what I was getting at in the fact of the campfire, I have nothing to do with that. Like at all, like maybe an ad lib here and there, like maybe once or twice over the few years.
You mainly get to see the antics that happen to make it happen. Yeah.
So it's like, I want to see that one grow and like what it's going to take for that one to become its own thing. And for the crowd you're going to bring. That's another thing I'm excited for too, is, we get a lot of like-minded people on Riker Road, and the types of people we get, what's going to be the difference on the Cave Cast, the Detour, things like that, like the people that we attract and, like-minded, but because it's a different type of art. We're not listening to music. We're either eating food or doing some kind of something funny or comedy, or then on here, we're discussing something and sitting. So what's going to be that crowd? Because like, it's scary in a good way, I think, because it's like it almost makes that hustle worth more, because it's like, well, I kind of want to see what Squirt does here.
Well, it's,
you know,
well, honestly, like I had a pretty good moment of like when I finished the graphic for what we were going to do for like showing like the logos of all the channels to make it like very easy
that was
to
so
see.
cool.
It was fun. It was fun to put together.
I mean, it's in a nice way, but like very basic, but to the point.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I like that. It was colorful, not only in the fact of, but it's because all the logos were different, but it was just like, just how you simply had it set out. I was like, this looks really good.
It was great to make, man.
You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, like that was just cool that you got to be able to do that.
Yeah. It was awesome to look at the necessity for organization, of the fact that it's like, no, like we do so many things that we have to have somewhere to put it, and we have to make sure that it's where it needs to be, you know, for everything else to function. And I remember being, you know, 12 or 13 years old, like being in the kitchen in the duplex, which is where it was, the place was so small that the computer was in a corner desk in the small kitchen. And it was just like, when I think back to like how we lived back then, where it's like, to me, that was my entire world. But that small place was everything. We had everything that we needed, you know, and I played many games on that computer. I finished a lot of school projects on that computer, you know, like different things like that. And it was this moment of like, you know, remembering trying to get my PlayStation 2 iToy to work as a webcam, because I was so desperate to make videos, and like what I was doing then is drastically different to now, and it's hopefully a lot better. But it's just that moment of, man, like it's just happening. It's working, you know, like everything is falling into place. Now, are all these things going to be successful? I don't know, but I can tell you that the process works. Like putting the content on there works. And that's the thing that really makes me realize that it's like, when we say that we're YouTubers, like it's not just that blanket statement. Like we really are, you know, it's because it's that whole thing of like, no, we're not famous, we're not this, we're not that. But it's like, no, like we put in the dedication, we make it happen. And to see that it actually has a structure now, because we have to focus our efforts, is just, it's so great. I love it. It's something that whenever I have low times, and like when I'm able to think properly, and I'm like, no, man, we're doing something. Right. We really are doing something.
And that's where, like, you know, I've stated before, where it's like, you know, like you just said, no, we are not famous. We're not this and that. But like, you know, yes, YouTubers, but at the same time, you know, I have had a few times over this whole kind of, I guess you could say, career that we have had on this platform, that I was just like, man, we did something here. Like we really did something here.
Somebody from Egypt showed up in our chats. That was weird. I love it, but it was like, Egypt? Really? Right. I never thought I'd ever speak to anybody from there, you know, like.
So it just showed me that I was like, look, man, like I, as stupid as it sounds, as far as like even social media, that like I truly did put my mind to something. Yeah. Now I know that it's as silly as, you know, listening to music or eating food or like whatever it is, but like it worked. And because I took it serious, you know, it's just like, I've had great jobs and I've had great places I've worked and, you know, all these things, but it's the fact that I think I've taken more pride in this because I bought the stuff. I built the room. You know what I mean? Like
you weren't handed a uniform.
Yeah. I didn't put an app in hoping I got it. Like it was one of those, I went, hey man, what are you doing with that room? You want to do something with me? And you went, okay. Yeah. And then here we are. Yeah. It's like, it makes me proud. And I don't say that a lot about myself, but you know, again, like I said, as silly as it is, but the whole YouTube thing and Riker Road, like I'm pretty proud of that. You know, when I really sit down and think about it and the fact of what has happened in that 10 by 12 or 15 room over the last 3 years. And it's just like, nope, not famous. We're not fucking millionaires. That's not the point.
No.
I did something and I did something cool. Well, and I got to leave that thumbprint forever.
Well, I think that honestly, man, like, I mean, I've been ultra proud of you. I mean, we've talked about it on a couple of other podcasts, but I mean, it's like just the the fact alone that you were able to learn editing. And,
Yeah.
you know, like you went from like the joke is it's like, oh, like now you're a nerd where it's like you're looking up what GPUs are. You're understanding what the difference between GPU and CPU is. And it's like,
yeah, right.
You're like you installed a piece like, you know, like in the computer.
My new
one night.
GPU.
Yeah, right. So like it's that thing of like I've had
Thanks, Evan. You helped me.
No, Evan's awesome. But like I've had those moments where like I kind of just sit back and I'm like, no, just let him do it.
Yeah.
Just let it happen, you know, and it's going from, you know, I mean, you were never this like tech illiterate, but it's like, you know, it's that idea like when you see somebody that's like, I'm afraid to click a mouse to I'm exporting and I'm leaving, it's all good for you. And it's like,
right.
I know for a fact that I do not have to worry about you in the tech aspect in that, like where it's no, like you can 100% get 6 videos edited and ready to upload. And then the only thing I do at that point is upload on like whenever I do it
on
it's
YouTube.
Like,
right.
It's nuts, man. Like that is a huge badge of honor because I think a lot of people that all that they see is that there's a video made. They're just like, oh, this thing comes out of a membrane of reality, you know, and makes it onto YouTube.
Right.
And it's like, no, man, like there's a craft here. There's a creative process to it. It's the, you know, being able to tell when somebody has first started editing compared to when, you know, to where they are now. And I mean, yeah, like both of us have had our improvements over, you know, the time that we've edited, but you know, you've always joked where it's like I had a Kyle. So it's like that thing where I'm like, hey, man, make sure there's no dead space. Like, make sure you get to the point. Like, you know, don't take a long time to get there. You know, things like that. Like,
right.
You understand that. Like, you had never done it yourself, but you understood that there was a science where it's like, no, like, is this okay? You know, does this seem all right? And I think that what's great is that even in the beginning of the music reactions, nobody has ever commented on the editing and said like, what the hell, this is hard to watch. Like everybody is engaged. And that I love that, dude. Like that is a huge badge of honor for you.
It was like, and it was almost even kind of immediately where I was getting like, well, there was comments being like, you know, this was edited nice, or like, I don't know who does this, or like whatever, blah, blah, blah. And that's when I was like, oh man, like, okay, but like funny enough, you were, you know, talking about that. We were talking this morning on Coffee Time and the fact of like, sometimes like when you're being told something over a headset, like trying to do something on your Xbox or like on OBS or something, it can get a little cumbersome sometimes. Like, so when Evan's trying to like tell me something and even rage sometimes. So it's like funny because I'm like, where? Because you can't go like here, right here. But what I'm getting at is that, so the joke is that like I'm tech illiterate, like when I'm on live, but the fact is like, I'm actually relatively tech savvy. The problem is that I wasn't tech savvy in the fact of like, you were just talking where you, Evan, and Rage have a very, very great understanding on the innards of a computer, programs that like I need to run, and the fact of, now, like you said, like you've taught me things over time where I'm like, I'm actually pretty decent and know my way around most of this stuff over here.
Yeah.
But when you get over here, I'm like, buddy, you're going to have to either tell me what to do or just do it for me.
Yeah.
Because like going off of that and the fact of like, yes, I do all the editing, and yeah, you might upload the video because it's rendering when I leave, but you're also making the thumbnail. The problem is that I could never actually really do, at least right now, I can never make a full video front to back like it is made because how you do the process and how thumbnails are made, you've said before, like, dude, this has taken me 4 years to learn, you know, After Effects, to be able to make these. He's like, to even teach you would be like, we would be here for a year for you to even understand. So it's like, it's just easier for you to take the 15 minutes every video and make the thumbnail.
Well, and the fucked thing is that it's like, no, many people use Photoshop or many other things. I just use After Effects because I know how to export a frame.
Correct.
So it's like, I don't even know if I'm even doing it the right way or like how like the professionals do it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the fact of like, you know, that portion, like I do understand where I'm like, all right, man, like I'm never really probably, at least in this way it's done, ever going to make a thumbnail. It's just, that's your part of Riker Road that you do other than sitting down or recording.
Yeah.
I do all the other stuff, but it's just like, I thought about that where I'm like, I pretty much do all of that now, except this. And then with the exception of when we do go on location for like Shut Up and Eat It's and stuff,
Yeah.
You also have a very different approach in what I do like as far as like shooting the video and then editing. So that's something that over time I'll probably get, but for right now, that's what you do.
Well, yeah.
So it's interesting, the dynamic
of
what I've learned.
Well, what I love about, having those moments is that like, with the shut up and eat it editing is that, being in the living room, like one of the things I love to do is to put it on the big television, connect, the HDMIs, get all the wireless stuff or whatever. And then we sit down in tandem and go, you know what, nah, man, that this needs to go here or this needs to go there or whatever. Like a lot of it is autopilot of like, look, I'm just going to do some mindless work and get like dead space out and stuff. But it's like when sections are done where it's like, all right, man, how do you feel? It's like, I don't think we need to explain that again. We are like, that's already there here previous, and again, like it's all lost in translation when you're on set because it's kind of like, well, no, like you want to make sure you don't miss anything.
Correct.
So it's like, we're able to find that pacing, but it's fun, man. Like it's cool. And that's the stuff like it gets me excited to be able to go to the Lizzie Borden house, to be able to go to like some haunted locations or do something completely different where it's like, what's a vlog style kind of show that we could do something that like we do the eating show or that we would do for a haunted thing? Like, it's like, we're in the position that like, I can give you a camera and I have a camera and we can get shit tons of footage, and it's so cool to be able to see that come together and we make something that looks like it's way more expensive than we ever were or are, it's just that type of thing.
I think the thing is that when we do find, the thing on the Detour, I think specifically, and it's not that like, I think that'll be the next thing that like, I guess takes off, but with the Detour, because of like you just said, the Lizzie Borden house or maybe some ghost hunting and then, the video gaming and stuff, like it is a little bit of like a plethora of things on there.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool to like really see where we could go to the Lizzie Borden house and it bombs. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it's just like, we did it for ourselves, or like we just happened to film it and put it online, that type of thing. But I know that the fact of like, kind of maybe investing in each a camera that's the same quality. And like you've said, like kind of just, I know that if I have a camera and that if you have a camera, we can go out and do things, do our shenanigans and come back. And it's going to be a pretty cool episode.
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 years ago, I can shoot, I can video stuff and whatnot. That would have been a disaster, man. That would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
You would have come back with this like professional looking, been like, how did you do that? And like, I don't know. That's just what I do. And I would have been like, yeah, so that's a tree, like, or something like that. But like, it's just like I said, that progression. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with these channels because as we've both grown, you have grown more, but I've kind of been, I'm always going to be like this kind of chasing behind you.
Well, I'm also,
but it's the cool thing is that it's, I hope getting better.
Well, I think that it's also that I have a disease of more where it's like, I can't stop, and that's where it's like, I've had to pull the reins on myself and be like, no, man, like, you're only going to work till like 9 or 10 tonight.
Yeah.
You need to relax. Like, it's like, like do nothing, just sit down, have your medicine, talk to your girl, play some video games.
Right.
Like get away from the computer, or at least if you're going to be sitting at the computer, you're not working on anything,
right.
Because if
you're standing at a screen, have fun.
Right. And because one of the things that it was funny that TJ said when he came over this past week, because him and I like to make music every once in a while, like, for like we tried to do it like every Sunday, but it just wasn't feasible. But no, he went, double monitors. And he went, I see. He goes, so you can get half the work done. And I went, what do you mean? And I felt so called out. He went, yeah, YouTube's open. He's like, you're watching something over on the other screen. And I'm like, you fucking dick. I'm like, well, yeah, that's true, but no, I mean, it's to have that space is really important. Like I know that you and I really love vibes. We love making sure that a place feels comfortable and that is good to be in, so it's like, it's cool to be able to pull that plug and just be like, all right, and now I'm in the room that I love. Now I'm in the space where I feel creative. I'm allowed to be creative if it does pop up. Like if, it's kind of like, I'm not in a living room, where it's like, there's a lot going on. It's like, I'm in a space. I can stop for a minute. And if no creativity happens, whatever, but if something does, you have the ability to do it, and to actualize it and, and really process it and make it happen. So
I think that's what's bumming me out right now. I don't want to say bumming me out. That's not the right word, but not having like a studio per se. Like tonight, before I go home and probably hop on Twitch, I need to go to like Lowe's or Home Depot and get the bigger space heater, because guys, the sunroom that I'm in is not like climate controlled. It's just an add-on to the house. Now, everything is weatherproofed as far as like that, but it still either gets like really hot or really cold, like with the, you know, the environment. Mm-hmm. So I need to go get a space heater.
Sure.
But in the fact of like the sunroom, the sunroom is not my studio. Mm-hmm. I don't have a studio yet. So to have that like quote space to go be creative is not really there at the moment.
Yeah.
Like my Riker Road studio is. Now, can argue the fact of course, I can come over here pretty much whenever. You're gone until like 5 p.m. Most days anyway. So it's like, it would be empty. But it's like, this sounds terrible, but like I have to get in and drive to the studio.
Yeah, right.
The luxury of having the studio and having like you have here is that it's at your fingertips. Mm-hmm. That's the point of having a studio, I think. Like, it's the fact where you can be creative. You don't have to go and then be like, now I need to be creative. I'm here.
Well, it's it
can be turned on at any point in time.
Well, I know like one of the things we talked about was that, you know, if, you know, the planets ever aligned for us to be able to do so is like actually like building a studio somewhere,
sure.
You know, and it's made me wonder with my process of things that it's like, well, no, I'll always have some kind of a creative space here.
You will.
But in the same hand, like the podcast room, like, you know, the maybe it's like that's where the campfire is produced, you know, or something where it's like, no, like there's a sound stage here, there's actors, there's, you know, like I'm thinking big, but it's like,
right.
It's that type of thing. So it's made me wonder of that, like having that mentality of like, oh, fuck, I gotta drive. Like it's like it's and it's you know, and it's so dumb, but it is such a big thing. It's like it's a barrier between one place to another. And you know, and I think that what's great is that, you know, the way that we have designed all of the studios too is that it's like, no, man, like it's not soundproof, but it's sound dampened, you know, so it's like being able to like do your own thing. Like you're not just in there just busting out like, you know, huge like bass notes or things like that, or being, you know, obnoxious or whatever.
It's also, I think the thing is it's not echoing.
Sure.
There's no echo. And with the microphones that we've invested in ourselves have been a good investment in the fact of it also helps.
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, no, but we've built the studios are here for what they need to be. Mm-hmm. And I think kind of going off the fact of like having to drive somewhere is that, yeah, you'll always have that place at the house. Like, yeah, I'll always have a studio. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not going to, when a studio gets built at my house, like I'm not going to just be like, okay, well, Riker Road's here. Like, no, actually like because I still, as of right now, that is always going to be the look in the studio in the room of that, because well, that's what that is. That's not to say that I don't have my studio for Twitch and then also going in and being like you said, like, all right, this is where I go be creative. Mm-hmm. I can walk in my backyard, not drive 10, 15 minutes to have to go somewhere, like I said, and then sit and be like, okay, be creative.
Yeah.
Like think, you know, like you can when you, and that's also treating it like a job, but in the fact of if I've already been here and it's 9:30 at night, I don't want to have to come back here to do something.
Yeah.
So, cause it is also your house. Like you also, you know what I mean? Like you want to be alone. So, but it's just like I said, first world problems, but like it actually is kind of essentially a problem with this being your job or like your very much side projects and things your hobby that you like to do. Mm-hmm. So it makes a big difference on your creativity or your space that you're allowed to just be, and that's what you do. You're not like I'm taking up more room where other people can be enjoying in a sunroom compared to just me going, hey guys, I'm playing Twitch, you can't be out here.
Right.
Dude, that's fucked.
Right.
Dude, that's fucked. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm being selfish by like, I need a studio, but I'm also being not selfish by taking up another room. So like, which is the lesser of two evils here also?
No, I think that it's just like how, you know, I mean, you've talked about like how you and Meg have talked, you know, before about not just the stuff that you're doing, but also that she's doing too, you know? So it's like, I think that that's one of the cool things is that there is that understanding.
There
you know,
is.
It's, you know, so it's because I mean, it's the joke that I made for a long time was that I was like, no, man, anybody that I'm with is going to have to get cool with a lot of shit really fast, you know, of that, you know, I'm not available this much or like that I'm, my mind is on these things, like, like working through stuff. Cause I mean, we've said it before, but YouTube it never stops. Like
it doesn't.
I would say that it's different now, because at the time it was, how do we get Riker to work? How do we engage our audience? How do we do this? And,
right.
And now it's just that, that mentality of like, no, like there's multiple things on our minds. There's multiple things that we think about daily. And then there's things that we still work through and that we're still discovering. And that's part of the fun process, is that like, I cannot wait to see what our creative process is in like 3 years.
Sure.
To see like what's going to happen, and it's, I will even say this, because you mentioned audiences earlier. I mean this with the utmost respect, but I'm hungry for a different audience.
Right.
I am so ready to attract the horror fans.
That's what I mean. Like what we're, that's what I was saying. So guys, like, don't take, oh God.
Right.
But like, don't take that. He's meaning in the fact of like what I was saying earlier, where it's like, we've attracted the like-minded people over here with the music because of this art, like the different art, like who are we going to attract?
I meant to say that, but
like what are these crowds going to be like? Exactly, man. Like the horror fan base and things that you are hopefully going to get, like you were saying on the campfire. Yeah, dude, I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
that's that is something that I think is the biggest part of this for me, is like, and we were talking earlier, just the fact of that grind, that hustle, and seeing what this outcome is going to be, again, not for fame and fortune, because we enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
And for other people to engage and, give a story back, or give a reasoning why they're here, or why they listen to this one over and over again, or whatever have you. Like, that's the coolest part.
Yeah.
And then being like, I got into horror because of, or whatever. Like it's those types of things. So that you're right. Like I didn't mean to cut you off, but like, please don't take him wrong on what he was saying.
No,
like,
because we've learned. But no, it's dude, like having that moment of, finding that old story in my email and being like, oh, there's 4 stories about this kid's dad. Like, he had incredible adventures. And he even prefaces it in the beginning when he says, look, my dad has always been honest with me, and when he tells me these things, like these, ridiculous stories, whether it's about UFOs or if it's about a Bigfoot or anything else, he's like, I'm going to be inclined to believe him.
Correct.
Because he's not somebody that's full of shit.
Correct. And, at least for me, to me.
And, the fact that it was, I pulled that sucker, however, or I pulled it out of the depths of my email, from however long ago it was there, and put it out there. And he watched it. And he was just like, bro, he's like, you're Kyle from Riker Road?
That's right.
He's like, that's insane. He's like, dude, I love your reaction channel. He's like, and you did this story about my dad? Like, thank you. And he's like, I mean, it was that whole thing of, my dad is no longer here.
Yeah.
But he's like, to know that he's been immortalized in some way, and we've talked heavily about that. And it's like, that's the interaction that I look for, is that like, yes, I want to know about your scary werewolf story. I want to know like how full of shit you think the story is, and that I'm a hack, or like this and this. Somebody actually said the other day, I can't remember where the comment happened, but they said that my voice was AI.
Really?
I'm not kidding. I'll see if I can find the comment and I'll show it to you. But I swear to God, it was like on a short or something. It was like AI. And I'm like, no, like, I mean, like the clip was made with AI, but it was like, it's me. Like,
it's me.
Like, I'm here. I'll do all the voices for you. Like it's
that's funny, dude.
But yeah, it's just, that was just kind of a little funny thing. But no, that's the stuff that I'm excited for. And especially too, man, like we've gotten to meet some pretty incredible people in the horror community, like, from with like, Demented Pictures, Newbie, the Gore Cast, have not gotten to meet Cody Leach, but I think that he's in like the group chat or whatever. Like Mike got connected with him at one point. So. Mike he's talked like horrible reviews before, and like different other people on there. And it's just, there's just like, I mean, you have bad apples everywhere, but there's just a lot of really solid people that make content that love horror, and it's awesome to be able to get into that, kind of vibe, and it's just like, man, like I love horror movies. I love everything scary. It's like, I want that, to be the thing that pops up on my notifications is that somebody's cheesing about, this certain thing of like, oh my God, I can't believe this story happened, or like never knew this creepypasta was there or whatever. Like, it's just, that's the stuff that I'm really, really, really hungry for, because like I'm reactioned out in the notification process of things where it's like,
Sure.
I want something fresh. Like, I want to see comments that are different. I want to see, the possibility of like, new connections being made where it's kind of like, no, man, like I actually do voices. Cool. Let's talk, like let's build a community. Let's do this, that type of thing.
I think, that's another thing too, is that with that can also bring other things that, projects that you or I or whatever can maybe expand on, or people to be like, oh guy, I didn't know you did this, or whatever. But to kind of go back on, you reading the story and you're in the person's, dad, kind of being immortalized, bro, something has stuck with me. And I don't want to get too much of it on a tangent. Maybe we can talk about something like this on a different date. But the fact the fact that they said you die twice, and this is, like I said, this is where, like, I think a lot of times it worries me is that the first time you die is when you die and you pass away, and the second time is when somebody utters your name for the last time.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, I don't like that.
The memory of you is gone.
And that's, I think, what scares me the most. So to hear a son say something like that, where like, my dad is kind of immortalized forever. Like maybe not his name per se, but like, it doesn't matter just because you don't say the word Matthew, but like his like story or something is always now going to be out there in a sense. Right. You know what I mean? Kyle, you kind of made him, in my opinion, like timeless, until the internet just doesn't exist anymore. He will actually always just be out there. Somebody will always stumble across that, whether it's one click every 6 months or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dude, that just kind of hit me right there, like thinking about that. Like, nah, man, his dad like legit lives on forever in a sense.
Yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
that kind of fucked with me.
What's funny, man, is that I find myself like, I mean, that thought is daunting, because it is like, the idea of when you think about like how big the universe is, and like the fact of like, we're not alone because the government confirmed it during COVID. Just because we weren't ready to hear it doesn't mean that it didn't happen and they said it's true. Yeah. But, it's like there's all these like very celestial, just, big things that your mind can think about, like, where did God come from, like all this stuff, where like it's so hard to wrap your head around that because we don't understand death. We've never died. We don't do that every week and talk about what it was like. We're like, man, you got a good one, man, fuck you, it's that type of thing. But it's interesting because like my mind does go there and it does play differently on different gears that are grinding. But I find that I'm so present that it's not something that really hits me that often, which is odd. Because like, I mean, you would think that with the amount of that I love horror and think about, death or like the story I want to write or different things like that. Like it's weird. Like I kind of feel like, I think that it almost comes from an urgency of that. I don't know how much time I have. I need to get as much done as possible.
Same. I think that's another thing. Yeah.
That's kind of how I process it,
Because like I guess I'll end with this because wow, this took a weird turn at the end. But like,
you're good, man.
I'm making that I don't know what you want to call it. It's not a documentary, but like of Chandler.
Oh yeah,
of all those like
a history,
like a history. I just labeled it Chandler growing up, right? And there's. Some of it isn't Chandler, but there's like 228 videos on there, and that's not including what's actually on my phone. That was from prior files and stuff. But I don't know when I'll show it to her, if I ever will, before I die or whatever. But there has been a part of me that like now, like right now, and maybe even more as the years go, but like sitting down and kind of being like, hey Chandler, this is what your dad looked like. I'm 41 years old. This is 2024. Like things like that, where it's like this whole kind of like a look back. And it's weird because I don't know when I'm going to go, but like watching her grow up, and it's like, I need to get all of this done before I die. I have to get this done for her. I have to get this done for my son. I have to get this done for mom, like, or whatever it is, like something like that. Or like, well, I hope I got enough recorded, because if I croak like in the new Slaughter to Prevail drops, like they're gonna be pissed. Like it's I mean, that's funny, but in the sense of like it is in a sense of urgency all around my life. It's not just a video making for Chandler, but like when I make it and I'm putting things together, it forces me to think about those things.
Yeah.
Because I am making it for several different reasons, but one of them is for when I do die, she can see like what I was there for, and like what she looked like, what I sounded like, how she grew up. It's my giant RCA cameras that Randy would write. It just so happens to be my phone. I can put a thumb drive in and put it on my computer.
Yeah.
It's 2024 now. We don't have fucking VHSs like that. It's, you know, it's weird thinking that I always have my phone in my hand, but I'm like, nah, man, this is your home movies. That's just how you do it now. And it's just like, it's really interesting that I'm that dad. I'm the tattooed guy that cusses a bunch and smokes weed and all this stuff, but I'm the guy over here crying in my studio watching my little girl grow up.
Dude, there was a moment like when you said, hey, come take a look at this, that it took me a second, because I thought that you were working on a Detour thing, or like it was that you were working on something to release. And when I saw how young she was, and there, I don't know if you get this way too, but you think to yourself like, oh, like anything from 2 years ago is so outdated, or that, you know, it's like, oh, it's going to look like a potato, or it's going to be this or that. And it's like, no, like footage has been able to be captured in a very high quality way for a while. Now it will get better and it will look lesser in some ways, but it was just like, I knew at least the place you were at. I knew, you know, both mentally and physically. When those things were being taken. And it was, I know for me, it was a relief to be able to just see good and just see like, no, like you really did capture the best moments that you could.
I've been trying to.
And it's great, man. Like I think it's something that, you know, to have, you know, to have something that you'd want to show is that, you know, you can always have the mentality of, all right, well, you know what, I'll at least render out this much.
I was going to say, I'll probably do something,
but this project is still staying alive. You know, it's like, and that's something that I'll make sure that we protect, like, you know, tech wise, where it's like, we can find a way to make sure that it stays around, you know, like that type of thing.
Cause I thought about that too, like, you know, keeping it from, you know, time to time, but like also even I may release something of it, like edit my edit a little bit and be like, hey man, you know, look at my little girl over the last couple of years. Like, cause it's already at like 35 minutes.
Right.
But it's not even the fact of the length. It's just the fact of like, nah, man, you're not going to get all of it. It's just, you know, you could one of those, like, you know, like I said, check out her first birthday. Now she's at her 5th birthday or whatever it is, like something like that. But no, that's just for me. And like I said, or for us or whatever, but it's just the fact of like I said, like there is just something about that sense of urgency that it does still get me. And it is for a lot of things in my life too. So it's like, it's almost like a catch-22. I don't want it to end, but I'm so obsessed with the end that I need to get things done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know my dreams and aspirations and what I have are drastically different. If that it's like, I don't have, a child to, you know, make memories with and like capture it and everything. But I do know that like the one thing that's on my mind amongst everything with life is that it's like, I'm like, if I don't at least get one thing shot for the middle, I'm going to be so disappointed in myself, you know? And that's something that I've actually tried to think about is, you know, it's like, no, like I can't do these 300 pages that I need to write to get the story finished. But it's kind of like, I have one scene completely figured out. I know exactly what's going to happen, you know? So it's kind of like that with that urgency of being like, I need to find a Catholic church. I need to find this. I need
now you got a list.
I got to cast Arlo and Candy. I got to figure all this stuff out, you know, but it's cool because I think that it's one of those that once you get past those moments and you realize that you left that imprint or that you've done the thing that you've been aspiring to do, even if it is one person sees it or if 2 million people see it. You know, there's an accomplishment there. Like it's kind of that mentality of that, you know, all right, well, if a painting is in a closet for 100 years, was it still art while it was put away and nobody saw it?
Right.
You know, and it's like, no, it was until it was viewed. It wasn't known, but it's like when it was viewed, it was appreciated, you know?
Did you ever see that? That almost kind of makes me think of the fact of one person or a million, but there was that, I forget what show it was, but it was this old woman and stay with me, guys. A black man was at her door and she comes in, or she basically answers. He's a big, like muscular dude basically. And she's like, I don't have anything for you to take if you're trying to rob me. She's like, I'm trying to cook dinner. And he was like, ma'am, you need to come with me. He was deaf.
Oh.
And she wasn't believing it at first. And he was like, ma'am, look, your body is on the floor. And she's like, she's like, I was standing at the stove. Like it was one of these things. Mm-hmm. And what she said was, she goes, well, fine. She goes, will you take a taste of my sauce? She's like, somebody needs to taste it before. She's like, my family isn't gonna, you know, whatever. And she gave the death a taste and he was like, that's good. And they basically walked out. But it was the fact of, I put in this work. People were coming over.
Can one person
yes. Just, and the fact of, she wasn't even like really afraid of him. It was just the fact, if you're going to take stuff, I got a TV or whatever, but like, I don't really have much. Like I'm trying to cook here. And he was just like, hun, you're not understanding. But she was like, fine, but before we go, you're tasting this. Like she bargained with death.
See, that's,
you know, like
I love
that was, every time that scene comes across my TikTok, I watch it.
See, I love when different mediums of like, you know, of art, they do that with, you know, entities or with gods or with different things where it's like, no, they humanize them, you know, of that moment of, it's ironically even like death and supernatural of being like, no, I suppose Chicago can stay. The pizza is good. You know, it's like, oh my God, like it's so relatable, but it also makes you wonder of like, you know, if well, I mean, we're getting super deep, but it's like, you know, like if there is an entity that does actually take you, if it's kind of like, look, I get it, you know, and it's like, if even if I have to lie to you to make you feel better.
Well, look at that. Look at, I know it's a fictional character, but look at Deathly Hallows. When she was reading and she said, when he takes the cloak off, he greeted death as an old friend.
I love that.
And they basically walked together. He gave up, essentially. He was like, all right, I'll let you win.
Yeah.
But like, you're right. Like when you have that where it's like, okay, maybe it can, who knows? Maybe it can be like that. You know, why does it always have to be so violent or so dark and twisted or something like that?
It's a natural thing that happens. Like,
it's a natural thing. Go. Yep. Come on, man. It's time.
Right.
Like, I know you don't want to, but it is time.
Yeah.
And, you know, almost kind of like, are you going to take my hand or are we going to do this the hard way?
Right.
You know, so
I don't like doing this the hard way.
Right. Yeah. It's like, and I don't want to be here either, but I almost wonder too, if it's something like that, where it's like, I don't want to do this job, but this is the cards I was dealt. You think
deaf. You got it bad?
Yes. I have to do this every day, my entire life, essentially. But anyways, so yeah, like, ending on that note.
No, man, it's stuff like that. Like that's what I love, man. Just any rabbit hole we can go down, because I know that if there's something to talk about, we can talk about it. But
who knows? Maybe people want us to do this as a podcast episode, talk about this ending and, you know, expand on it more.
If you guys want more, we'll do it. But I mean, comment below with anything you guys want to see. We'll talk about it for sure.
No, strictly this.
Only that thing. You know, we're going to be a death podcast from now on. So
yeah.
But no, guys, if you've been watching for the entire episode, we really appreciate it. We appreciate your time and you being here and just, you know, like loving what we do. It means a lot to us, especially on this new road, and to, you know, try new things and to put things out there and hope that people connect with it like we do, you know, because we put out there what we believe in, and it's just,
we love this shit, man.
Yeah. It's fun to, it's fun to think about a life of that. It's like, you know what, like, yeah, it didn't turn out so bad. You know, it's like things are really good, you know, and I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at. I know you are too. And just to be able to do what we do and, you know, catching those moments that we remember to have fun, because it's so easy to get lost in it. And this is one of those moments.
Of course,
it's
man. Absolutely.
It's looking at it and being like, nah, man, this is cool. I love this. So, but nevertheless, guys, we will definitely see you guys next week. But as always, Eric, is there anything you want to say to the audience before we officially sign off until next week?
Don't think about death. See you next time.
You can think of Hetiad. That's death backwards. So I'm an idiot. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Adios.